Korea celebrates 140 years of diplomatic ties with Germany this year, and during summit talks on the sidelines of the UN General Assembly in New York last September, President Yoon Suk-yeol and German Chancellor Olaf Scholz agreed to advance economic cooperation and more. So what are the prospects for bilateral ties this year? What are the merits of business ventures between the two countries? And what needs to be tackled to ensure greater bilateral economic gains? Welcome to Issues and Insiders. Today, we touch upon Korea's trade ties with Germany, and for this purpose, we have the pleasure of speaking with the head of the Korean-German Chamber of Commerce and Industry here in the studio. I have Dr. Martin Henkelmann here in the studio. Thank you so much for making time to be here in person.
Thank you very much for inviting me.
Right, Dr. Henkelmann, let's start then with a few words about the Korean-German Chamber of Commerce and Industry, including perhaps its purpose, of course.
Yeah, thank you very much. So the German-Korean Chamber of Commerce was established 42 years ago. And we have the purpose of supporting the German-Korean business relations in any way possible. We are a membership organization. We have about 500 members today. We are a platform for networking to bring the companies together. We have been supporting many, many delegations that were coming over. And we also have a mandate from the German government, from the Ministry for Economic Affairs and Climate Action, to support and to voice concerns from the German companies here. And we have today 28 employees, and last year we helped in about 4,000 cases and specific inquiries.
Right, that is good to know. Dr. Henkelmann, Korea and Germany, as I mentioned earlier, they mark their 140th year of diplomatic ties this particular year. And amid the current challenges to the global economy, what are your prospects with regard to bilateral ties for the year 2023?
Yeah. It is actually great that we have this Jubilee year, this year, 140 years, because it's a good moment taking into account the challenges which you mentioned to take them into account and look a little bit back and look on the current situation and also look forward. The ties between Korea and Germany are manifold, and this is excellent, particularly when you look on the economic side. And we have this common interest in many, many topics. We are both countries, Germany, and when you look on the Korean economy, we have lots of industry companies that are interested in export. And we have the same challenge here, because the multilateral trade is challenged through the free trade agreements are challenged, and the rule-based orders is under a certain threat. So we have a common interest there. We also have the interest that we have companies that have a strong industrial base compared to other countries which are much more looking on services. Korea and Germany, we still produce goods, and with this comes lots of challenges as well, which we have in common when we look on the decarbonization of the industry. So we have to look, and we can look together on this topic, and also skilled workers, which we need, particularly for the industry. Big challenge we face together. A third aspect which we consider very important is that our countries, they don't have, we had coal before, but we don't have much resources anymore. There are no commodities. Our resources, what the people have in the head, with the skills, the experience, and this is so important that we work together when it comes to research. So again, a challenge we are facing together. And this is great. Besides all the economic aspects, we have strong bridges between Germany when it comes to cultural aspects, with the Goethe Institute and the German school here, when it comes to student exchange with the DAAD here, more than 5,500 Korean students at the moment in German universities. And also we have the second generation of Korean Germans now, the children from the miners and nurses that went over to Germany in the 60s, they also bridge the two countries together. So I think great moment to celebrate all this together this year.
Right, of course. Dr. Henkelmann, your chamber, the Korean-German Chamber of Commerce and Industry, it's the second largest foreign chamber here in the country, with, as you mentioned earlier, over 500, with some 500 member companies. Does this substantial size, so to speak, does it well reflect perhaps the level of economic interactions between the two countries?
As a matter of fact, it does, because the trade volume between our two countries has grown tremendously in the last 15 years, and particularly in the last 12 years since we have the EU-Korea Free Trade Agreement. When you look today on the volume between Korea and the European Union, 140 billion US dollar of exchange, and about its balance between the the two sides. And from this big 140 billion, 34 billion US dollar is the trade volume alone between Korea and Germany. Germany is, I think, the fourth largest market for Korean companies outside of Asia. Korea for us is the third largest market outside of Europe. And it, as I said, it has been growing, and we reached a height last year. And when you look on investment in the last 10 years, we normally had every year 6-digit millions of investments in both directions as well. And this is also reflected when we do our surveys, and we do regularly surveys with the German companies and also with the European companies. There was a survey a couple of weeks ago which showed that in 2019 only 34% of the companies thought that the Korean market was increasingly important. 34% in 2019. When we asked them in 2021 and 2022, it was almost 60%, around 60%. So it shows also how the companies think about the importance of the market here.
Right.
The significance.
The surge in the figure actually took place during the pandemic. Do you suppose Korea's handling of the pandemic perhaps boosted its image with regard to German companies?
Yeah, that certainly did. I mean, the fact that the decrease of the GDP was relatively small in 2020, and then it picked up quite quickly in 21, 22. This was certainly one of the factors which showed the well handling of the crisis showed that companies can continue to produce here, to market their goods. So it was certainly one of the big drivers behind this feeling from German but European companies as well. That's a good strong market here.
Dr. Henkelmann, you mentioned studies, and according to one study by your chamber, 90% of German companies here in Korea believe that the business climate in the country is quite fairly satisfactory. That being said, what do you suppose are some of the merits for German companies doing business here in South Korea? Yeah.
Besides the fact that that Korea handled the crisis, the pandemic crisis, so well, I think there's this comparable mindset from industry in Germany and Korea. Many of the goods which we produce in Germany are relevant for Korean companies, and the same way around. Goods we produce in Korea can be very relevant for German companies. So this is one aspect. And if you see in our last survey, we saw that more than 25% of the companies actually had R&D here. So they were developing together with the Korean companies, and around 30% of the companies said they would have production here. That shows how close our industries are linked together. The second aspect is, when it comes to particularly to consumer goods, that we see that Koreans value high-end products, and I think there are lots of good, very high-end, interesting German products which are appreciated by the Korean consumers. And for the German companies, it's often very interesting to be here in the country, because if you take the song, if you can make it here, you can make it everywhere. At least you can say, if you make it here in the market, you have a good chance that in other East Asian markets, the consumer good will also be very interesting for the consumers. So that's a second very important aspect. And a third aspect to our point of view is also, we see more and more cooperation from German companies with Korean companies to go into a third market, either by joining hands as a group, but also by seeing that German products or elements, supply parts are part of the Korean product, which is then part of the export from Korea to the rest of the world. I think the two countries and the companies from two countries get a good value offer together, which makes it interesting then.
Right. And also then, Dr. Henkelmann, what can you tell us about the advantages perhaps that Korean companies look to gain by doing business over in Germany?
Yeah, I think the interesting aspect of the German market is, of course, it's the largest in the European Union. It's a very high a strong purchase power per GDP, per capita. If you are in Germany established, you can also cover the rest of the European Union and many other countries quite easily. We have a free market there within the European Union, a single market, as we say. And this makes it interesting to be there. And why setting up, for example, in Germany and not in other European Union member countries, I think aspects which are relevant is, we have a good skilled labor force with our vocational training. That makes it very interesting. I think we have a very stable legal system, of course. So if there ever are problems, you get quite quickly a decision or a judgment. We have a strong research and development culture in the country. And also you are a little bit in the middle of Europe. I mean, there are many countries which are kind of in the middle of the European Union, but you can certainly say also large parts of Germany are quite central in Europe, and you are in the largest market.
Right. Moving forward, Dr. Henkelmann, March 15th, which would be this coming Wednesday, Korea celebrates its 50th Commerce and Industry Day. That being said, what are your thoughts regarding Korea's past achievements and perhaps present assignments with regard to commerce and industry?
First of all, congratulations for the 50th anniversary. Excellent. And I must admit that I really admire what the industry and the commerce, what the business community has created in this country in the last 50 years. And I think when we speak about the miracle of the Han, it's certainly right to use. And also, we are certainly proud that Germany and German companies have been contributed and have been part to a certain part of this development. That's excellent. I think that it's amazing to see that Korea has become in so many sectors market leader, or at least being in the top 3 when it comes to consumer electronics, when it comes to battery, when it comes to semiconductors, and also now all the trends with digitalization. It's amazing to see where Korea stands today. When we look a little bit on the challenge side, I think a shrinking population and the issue of stabilizing the social system, social security system on the long run is certainly a point where Korea would have to have a look on. Strengthening the SME structure, the small and medium-sized enterprises. And we also see the issue that strengthening research in the country is very important. And then the big topic of everything which is linked to ESG, to environmental, social and governance topics. This is certainly something where the Korean industry and commerce have to look on, as German companies have to look on.
Right, and staying with challenges, Dr. Henkelmann, what can you tell us about some of the hurdles, if I may, with regard to the hurdles that German companies face while seeking to access the Korean market, and of course for Korean companies seeking to access the German market?
Yeah. Looking on the hurdles here, once again, we have a very strong free trade agreement, and we have seen a tremendous increase. So when we speak about hurdles, there's still some, but still we are on a high level of cooperation. But of course, when we speak about hurdles, we see that still everything which is linked, or many things which are linked to standardization and to recognition, mutual recognition of certification, standards in general, homologation, automotive sector machinery, all this, there are still quite a lot of hurdles, and it's difficult for our companies to get the permission here quickly to go into the market. We also, in our last survey, we had about 50% of the companies mentioning their concerns about discretionary decisions from the administrative sides, sometimes not transparent procedures, how rules and regulations were made or applied, consistency in this regard. One issue is also in the pharmaceutical sector, medical devices. We see problems when it comes to the pricing and to the entrance on the market here. And on public procurement, to mention perhaps a fourth aspect, taking into account how large our exchange between the countries is and how many German products are on the market, it's somehow surprising that only 1% of the public procurement value goes to German companies. So it's relatively low, the quota, which indicates that perhaps we have to look on this field as well. However, there are also hurdles from the Korean side when they go to Europe and Germany. I think one aspect which is often a little bit awkward is to understand the very complex mechanism of legislation, how procedures and how the legal system is constructed within the European Union, with laws coming from the European side and the German federal side, and we have the regional level and then the municipal level deciding on the end of some permits for construction, etc. So I think there's one issue, one how it is applied and how it is made. And the second aspect we have to be very aware of, and I do understand this is a concern from the Korean industry, is the fact that I mentioned the ESG standards. We have to see that these ESG standards, environmental and social aspects and governance standards, do not become an obstacle for free trade. For example, the carbon border adjustment mechanism is considered to be an obstacle to export goods to the European Union. So I do understand we have to look on this as well, that there are no new problems arising from this.
Right, quite a number of tasks to look ahead to, right? Dr. Henkelmann, as is the case worldwide, Korea itself, it's facing lackluster exports with a demand for semiconductors dropping globally. And of course, there is also weak domestic demand at the moment. And all that being said, I understand this might be a tough question, but what do you suggest for Korea to perhaps better weather these tough times?
I think, first of all, I think I have to be hesitant and very careful to give advice here, because as we spoke about it, Korea has managed so well the COVID pandemic. So they have weathered this very tough time in a very, very extraordinary way. And also, if I look also on what the government has proposed lately and the changes we see or proposed, we see good trends there. When we speak about the taxation on the corporate side, also to attract more foreign workers into the country, I think there are good issues. Labor law, more flexibility there. So we see already some points there which go certainly in the right direction. I think what we need when times get tough is that we kind of make space for companies, that they can be agile and quick. And the biggest enemy of agility and being quick is probably bureaucracy. So administrative procedures, we need flexibility there and a very hands-on approach within the framework. So I think this is something where companies very often see advantages if bureaucracy goes down, which is also a point which we know from Germany. And the second point is in the difficult times, you have to prepare the good times. So we have to see that we get the workers skilled up, prepared for the new challenges, the new jobs in the future. I think this is a big issue, particularly in this country where labor will be a scarce good at some point. And I think vocational training is a very important part for this. And perhaps the third aspect is, once again, the free trade agreements. We need a free rule-based international order, and it would be great if Korea gets very much involved in this as well, to lobby for this free markets and this rule-based order. I know that's in the interest of Korea, and the government has been very active in this field, but I think this is something we cannot emphasize enough.
Right. Dr. Henkelmann, last Wednesday we marked International Women's Day, and it has been found that Korea, although we've made remarkable advances over the years, we still have quite a bit more to do with regard to women's participation within the workforce. I understand that your chamber, it has a program called Women in Korea aimed at promoting women's role within the workforce itself. Could you tell us a bit about that particular program?
Yeah, thank you very much for asking, because this is really one of our signature projects we have, and it has been we are now just started the fifth batch of mentors and mentees. The program itself, it's called WIR, which stands for Women in Korea, and the German translation or the English translation for WIR is actually we. So it's across national and it's across sectoral cooperation. It's a platform for mentees and mentor women to meet and to enable the possibility of having a stronger network and learning from those who have been working in the sector and in different sectors for a very long time. We really think that when it comes to gender equality, it's not a moral imperative only, but it's also a question of having a more diverse workforce, which helps for innovation, which helps for productivity, for competitiveness in the end. So we see clearly here there are two levels, and we like to strengthen this.
Right. You also have a program for youth here in the country, do you not? Could you tell us about the youth program as well?
Yeah, we have a cooperation with the German car manufacturers and also truck and lorries. They have a vocational training program which is certified according to the German standards, and we have about 500 trainees in this program. So every year about 100, and they are trained to work then afterwards in the companies from the car dealers here. Mechatronic is a typical work profile, and which is very interesting. We work together with 4 Korean colleges, and we see a great success because these young for the young Koreans, it's a great opportunity to, without going to the large universities, to have a clear perspective. They get already paid to a certain degree during the training phase. We have a pause in there for the 2 years while the young men, mainly men, do their military service, and then so they start, then 2 years of, 1.5 years of pause, and then they finish the program. Half college and half in the companies, which is really a big success story, has been a big success story in Germany, and we are happy to share this, and the German car companies are very active.
So they're able to get the theoreticals as well as the practicals during that particular program.
Yeah, exactly. So, and they link it then, and they apply it straight away. It's not that they learn for months only the academic, theoretical stuff, if I may say so, but they can apply it, and they have all the companies participating, all the car dealers, they have trained trainers, very important. So they are really welcomed in the companies by people that are there to host them, to help them to develop. So this is a very significant part of this program as well. So all the car dealerships, they have someone, several people that have been trained to help to guide the young trainees.
I see, that's good to know. Dr. Henkelmann, let's end today's talk then with a few words perhaps about your chamber's plans for this year, 2023.
Yeah, it will be a busy year because we are celebrating the 140 years and also there are 60 years of EU-Korea relations, so there's certainly a whole lot of important visits coming, and we see also that there has been a backlog when it comes to delegation, inbound and outbound business, but also in the political, economic environment. We have a big key event in Frankfurt, end of June, which will be on business questions, on investment, together with KOTRA, the HK is involved, the KGCCI, Korean Chamber is involved. Very important event. We are looking forward to this. There are lots of trade fairs going on in Germany. We represent the trade fair in Berlin and in Stuttgart, and also the toys fair in Nuremberg and many others. So traveling is picking up there as well. And also we will, on the focus point, certainly look on digitalization, on energy cooperation, very important topic, which we haven't touched too much upon, but very important for our cooperation. And then a signature event in the end of the year is in November, our 9th Innovation Award, looking on the cooperation innovative products from Germany and Korea.
Hopefully we can make time for more talk on the energy sector, bilateral relations in the near future then. Dr. Henkelmann, thank you so much for your time and your thoughts today.
Thank you very much for having me.
Right, well, on that note, we end Monday's edition of Issues and Insiders. Thank you for watching. See you same time tomorrow, that is Tuesday, as we address Korea's broader ties with India.